when did we decide that we lost the potential to do whatever it is that we want to do in this world? And we did at one point get hurt or get let down or have these experiences that kind of really take away that belief that anything is possible. And I think one of the most effective things we can do is work in our lifetime to redevelop those positive beliefs. Like when a baby is born, we usually get so excited and just say, that baby can do anything. That baby can be anything. This child, if they want to grow up to be the next president or this or that, like everything within them, they have that potential. When did we lose that? When did we stop being that baby who can go off and do anything and achieve their dreams?
Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy, a Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison.
Well, greetings, compadres. Greetings to you. So today I have Karolina on here. I will say I'm going to ask her to pronounce her last name because I just heard it and I'm not super confident I wrote it down phonetically well enough to repeat it. So Karolina, if you wouldn't mind sharing your last name really quick.
Amazing. It's Rzadokowolska. It's 12 letters long and has a lot of consonants. So
I love it. And I just said to her before I hit record how much I have an appreciation for beautiful names like hers because, growing up in the 70s and 80s, Amy, Jennifer, with the occasional Lisa and Kelly peppered in was kind of what I was used to. So I love it. But let me tell you a little bit about this amazing woman, and then I'm going to just kind of turn the floor over to her for a little bit so she can just unpack and tell you about her sobriety journey. But she's an alcohol-free empowerment expert, which I love. I think that sounds amazing, and it gives me chills, so I can't wait to hear about it. And she helps intuitive women ditch alcohol and discover their greater purpose. She's worked with thousands of clients through her programs to change their drinking habits and unleash a new level of health, happiness, and she's got their helps them to drive forward their greater purpose and biggest dreams. She's a best-selling author of a book, Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol and Gain a Happier, More Confident You, and that's a HarperCollins. And her work has been featured in HuffPost, The Sunday Post, Pop Sugar, Real Simple, Elite Daily, and multiple TV shows. And Karolina also certifies new coaches in her Empowerment AF Coach Certification Program. She does a lot of stuff, you guys, a lot. And she's passionate about helping you discover what really makes you happy outside of a beverage. That's key. That's key right there. And design an emboldened, alcohol-free life. Welcome, Karolina.
Well, Amy, thank you so much. Such a warm welcome. I'm super excited to be here today.
Yay. Well, if you don't mind, the floor is yours. Just launch in, and we'd love to hear anything you want to share with us about your journey from there to here.
So happy to share. This is obviously a topic that's so dear to my heart as it is to yours, because I really believe deep down that when we can clear alcohol and clear the things that we're doing that help us play small, we can unleash our bigger purpose. And I actually believe that it's alcohol-free women that are going to change this world. So anyone listening, men included as well, but anyone listening of why you've been on this journey, I think it's for a bigger reason and a bigger purpose that is unfolding in front of you, as we will see so much aliveness comes through this. And, I arrived here, maybe not in the traditional route as a lot of people have, maybe like a rock bottom story or something like that. I had to go through years and years and years of my intuition telling me that, drinking wasn't serving me, but not really having those outward signs that would make the decision a lot easier. And so it kind of drove me a little nuts. I think a lot of us see maybe stereotypes or caricatures, or just read stories of what a drinking problem looks like. And until we find ourselves in that bucket, it's just not that bad. And so for me, I started drinking, in high school and college, and especially in college, I took on this incredibly deep party lifestyle. Like, I was such an introvert in high school and shy growing up that when I turned to alcohol, it was like this magical elixir that turned me into the extrovert I wanted to be. And it really used it as a tool to make friends and become popular and just like find my groove. And I will say that along with being a young adult, like, I had just no boundaries around alcohol. Not only was it something that I did socially, but like, I didn't know how to deal with breakups. I didn't know how to deal with how to figure out what you're going to do with your life. Like, alcohol came to play as that big defense mechanism for just everything that I was going through back then. I carried on those patterns in grad school as well. And I will just say that I was drinking the most that I ever drank at that point in my life. What happened next was that I kind of grew up a little bit. I, got married. I started my career, and I, bought a house, all those things that we do when we adult. And I basically compartmentalized drinking. So I got really into health and mindfulness at that point. And so Monday through Thursday, I would live the healthiest lifestyle. I went to yoga classes. I drank green juice. I meditated. I did all these things that I thought were helping me become a better person. But every weekend, without fail, alcohol was included. And the thing is it looked so normal on the surface, right? I was going out with friends for a few drinks. I was going to a wedding or a dinner party. Like, it didn't look like any of those traditional stories. And so I kept telling myself, this is normal. This is what everyone is doing. But I couldn't shake the feeling I felt every Monday morning. Every Monday morning, I woke up feeling like a shell of myself. I obviously felt groggy and exhausted, but I also just felt so ashamed of, not abiding by my intentions. And it felt like every week I was making 2 steps forward in my healthy lifestyle and then taking 5 steps backward over the weekend. And every week for years and years and years, I can like really mentally go back. I wanted to change so badly. But every time I would even think of the idea of maybe we take a break from alcohol, maybe we don't drink this week, I would look at my social calendar, and just seeing the dinner party or the networking event or whatever it was, it felt like I was locked in this habit, in this expectation that all adults must drink. And that really, really kept me stuck for so long. And then what it would mean if I stopped drinking, what that would mean about me. So I kept trying to make it the smaller, more compartmentalized thing in my life. And I'll say in my story, I really kind of had that maybe different story in the sense that I actually did drink less year after year because I was trying to make it smaller and smaller. But it was driving me nuts. Like, I was literally devoting so much mental space to how much I was drinking and when and where and who and what rule am I going to follow and how did I break this rule and how am I going to, recriminate myself the next morning. Like, I literally could have written 3 books in the time that I was trying to moderate, right? So it was just taking so much valuable mental energy of me. And finally, I heard of Dry January that kind of unlocked something for me and unlocked this idea that I could take a break, that I had this really valid excuse to use for other people, and I could finally try on this lifestyle without making like a permanent decision about it because I just wasn't ready at that point. And so I took a Dry January and I loved it. Obviously, it was hard to change my habits at first and figure out what to do on a Friday night. But like, the benefits of waking up with rested sleep and actually feeling proud of myself every morning, those were just getting so good. And I also noticed my mood was elevating. Little things like a hike or a walk in nature or a belly laugh with my husband or cuddling with my dog started to feel so much more luscious and deep, like more meaningful experiences. February comes around and I still have this belief that I want to keep not drinking, but I literally don't believe I'm allowed to. That a normal adult drinks alcohol, and if I don't drink, I'm abnormal. And so I drink a few times in February, trying to kind of keep up appearances. And I hate it. I hate it. Like, I really notice even just a few drinks, how much it ruins my sleep. And what's really appalling to me is that I noticed how elevated my mood was in January. And then just 1 or 2 drinks in, I would notice after that initial buzz wears off, I'd get cranky. I'd be frustrated. I'd even start picking little fights with my husband. And for so long, my belief around alcohol was that it's fun and it adds to life and it makes things more pleasurable. And here I was with such good evidence that none of that is true. I was so much happier without it. So I decided to take another break at that point, and that's how I kind of framed it, is like, okay, let's do another 30 days. That turned into 60 days, that turned into 120. And here we are 5.5 years later, living just this incredible alcohol-free lifestyle. And I'll just say that every week that went by and every month that went by, I progressed in not only my physical health, my emotional health. I really, really healed a lot of internal things within myself, but also my spiritual health and my connection to something bigger than me. But mostly too, it was the confidence I got of finally like sticking it to my Achilles heel of like, holy shit, if I could do this, what else could I do? And what I didn't realize was this TGIF lifestyle I was living of like, let's just get through the week, can't wait for the weekend so I can drink and unwind. I didn't realize how unfulfilled I was with my weeks, and that alcohol was using as a band-aid for my boredom and my stress. And so instead of repeating that habit, I figured out what I really wanted. I really wanted to feel deep fulfillment in my career. And so I decided to launch a business, become certified as a coach, and do what I've always wanted to do, which is help people and live a freedom lifestyle at the same time, where I get to travel and host retreats and all these beautiful things that I've been building over the last 5.5 years and becoming an author. And today, not only is it my passion to help people get freedom from alcohol, but then ask that second really important question of like, if this is all happening for me for a reason, what is next? What is this next chapter that I'm meant to step into? It's almost like we remove the things that no longer serve us so we can step into our brilliance. And I just see this such a commonality with, you and your story and all the incredible people you help, and so many people in my audience, so many women stepping into the version of themselves that they were put on this planet to be, as a matter of removing what no longer served them through ditching alcohol. So I'm super impassioned about this message because people literally do wake up to their bigger purpose. And I love having conversations of like, how do we do that? And like, what are good questions to ask? And how do we really ascertain whether we're living a fulfilled, meaningful life or kind of just on the edge of it?
That was amazing. Incredible. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I think, what struck me the most, the whole concept of empowerment, huge on that. And I think that the whole idea of being able to trust our intuition, that's huge. When I stopped drinking, I couldn't even put my socks on like correctly. One would be inside out, the other, like the seam was on the bottom of my foot and it was irritating me. And I was just this constant mess. And so if somebody had said, hey, someday you're going to be able to trust your gut, you're going to have an inner compass that will help you navigate your life day to day, I wouldn't have believed them. I would have been like, what? What are you even talking about? I couldn't fathom something like that. So I love hearing this, that, you proved to yourself during that dry January, well, okay, I could stay sober through this. I wonder what's next. I wonder what else I could do. And I just think that's it just gives me goosebumps. So thank you for sharing all that. And I'm wondering, can you speak to how you developed that intuition, or did it just kind of unfold, or how did that shape up for you?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And, I really firmly believe that alcohol blocks our intuition, which is why it can be so hard to kind of know the direction and trust ourselves. And, just speaking of trust in the first place, like every single time I made a rule and broke it, every single time I drank the night I said I wouldn't, or I had one more drink, I'm losing my self-trust. My word doesn't mean anything. So why am I going to believe that I can go off and achieve my dreams when I can't even do this? And so it really deteriorates not only our clarity on what our life purpose is, it also completely deteriorates our belief that it's possible for us. And obviously this is seen in heavier, severe drinking, but I see this play out even in what we call the moderate drinkers too, because everyone wants to live healthier and abide by their deeper intentions and live a life aligned to their values. And every time we're not living a life aligned to our values, even if it's just by a little bit, it's very painful for all people, right? And that's why I love talking about alcohol, not as just for these people, it's for everybody. This is a societal issue. We're all programmed to drink in our society. And I think every conscious, intuitive person should reevaluate that. Whether or not they decide to go alcohol-free is up to their intuition, but not to just make it this unconscious thing that we all do for forever with never bringing our intuition to it. And so for me, I would say that not only was my intuition blocked, my self-trust was deteriorated, right? And my belief in myself. And I want to illustrate this story to show that I had wanted to write a book ever since I was a child. So I was, a 6-year-old child who loved reading and got into books as a preteen. And I would write a lot when I was younger. I would write poems and little stories and plays, little kid writing. And literally right when I go to college and I start really picking up on drinking, the writing just dries up. I just cannot write anymore. I can't even journal anymore. It's like this honesty that I'm not willing to have with myself anymore, I think. And the thing is the desire to write a book never goes away. So as I get older, I start doing these New Year's resolutions where this is the year I'm going to write my book. And I make a New Year's resolution that I'm going to write for 30 minutes every week this year. And I would do it the first week in January and literally never again. I didn't have the discipline. Like, it was so much easier to open a bottle of wine than write the next great American novel, right? And I also didn't have that like creativity and that just sense of like flourishing with words at all either. So this just huge writer's block I have, right? And there's a part of me that's almost so hopeless about it. It's just like, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to write this book. Like, it's just, put it away, Karolina. That was a childhood fantasy. Get real. You can't do this. Like, that's literally the conversation I was having with myself. So I go alcohol free. And all of a sudden I notice I'm journaling a lot more. Like, just the words are coming to me, and just I'm really, really introspective about the whole experience and the different sensations I'm having and all that too. And I'm feeling really like this two months into it. This is the second break I took. I'm 2 months into it. And at that point, I've done a lot of healing, a lot of work around it. And I'm feeling just amazing. Like, I'm literally feeling euphoric. And I'm at a beach in Hawaii and I'm watching the sunset. And it is one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in my life. And I can see all around me, people are trying to hurry to get to this like bar to order like a drink so that they can enjoy the sunset. And I'm like, this is lost on them. This is lost. Like, this is so beautiful. And in that moment, the universe literally just tells me the word euphoric. You're meant to write a book and a business by this name. You're meant to help other people feel this way. And like, again, this is for years of not having one creative idea or any source of like connection with that bigger creative energy. And the next week I get home and I'm sitting in front of my computer and every single chapter comes to me just like that at once. And I have the whole outline of the book. It took a while to write because I got a traditional publisher and I had to get an agent and stuff. So the book itself didn't come out till 4 years later, but the ideas for it, every single chapter literally came to me that quickly. And I wrote that book within the first few, 6 or 8 months being alcohol free or something like that. The first draft, obviously, it got better after that. But it's just this incredible, I think, story to illustrate that, like, not only was my intuition blocked, my creativity blocked, a sense of belief that it was possible for me. And writing that book and just even putting like crappy words on a page, because the words got better with editing over time, that also showed me that I can go after what I want. I do have a gift to share with people and I can achieve my bigger dreams. So it's like within that first year, not only did I prove to myself that I can trust my word and I can go after the things I want, I took so much action that it really gave me this evidence of having this different identity. Like, yes, me with alcohol isn't going to do all these things, but obviously that's like a ball and chain that everyone's carrying. Karolina without alcohol, I don't know who this woman is. And I'm really excited to see and find out. And I really do believe that as we go alcohol free, it depends on your timing and your stage. I'm not necessarily saying do this within the first week of sobriety. It might take it some time. Maybe you'll find maybe in a year, this is a good time to do it. But at some point in time, I think it's so brilliant to ask yourself these deeper questions. Why did I come to this planet? What am I here to do? What am I passionate about? What do I want to help other people with? What do I want to share? What will I regret never doing that I just feel I'm meant to do? And whatever questioning or coaching or different introspection it takes to kind of arrive at that, we will be so much better off living into our purpose and taking action on our beautiful, beautiful gifts that we have to share with the world than sitting back like I was as a drinker, watching other people do it, but literally sitting back and playing small and using alcohol as this Band-Aid to fix my sense of boredom and lack of meaning in my life.
The way you worded all of that was so incredible. And it's so true, right? Getting sober helps us realize how much we were not giving the best version of ourselves to other people. And we couldn't, it was a blocker. It was like, you sort of can't get past that rope. And I love how you talked about your creativity being blocked. I totally relate. I had the same experience. I would try to write. I would think something was, just over the top, just, epiphany after epiphany. And I'm writing this stuff. And then I'd read it the next day and be like, what in the world? What was this? What was I trying to say? And, what I didn't realize, I thought alcohol was adding so much to my life, when the reality was all it was doing was robbing me from, who I was meant to become and who I was at that moment. And I love how you said, Karolina without alcohol was somebody who you didn't know. And I had that same experience. I sort of realized after being sober for maybe 6 months to maybe 9 months, I was like, okay, a person is unfolding here. A person is unfolding. And I started to gain that curiosity to find out more about who I was. And it was like this entirely new experience for me. And I think the honesty and the raw open-mindedness and the raw kind of, here I am, I'm not super comfortable right now, but here I am. That all was kind of an essential part to bring forth, whoever that new woman was going to be for me. And so I love the way you said that. And the sunset story, holy cow. I mean, I have been that person, when I was drinking, on the side of like, oh, I got to hurry up and get in line for the bar so that I can be ready to enjoy this sunset with a drink. And it just sounds so sad when I say that. I hear myself say it. It just sounds sad to me. So I love that the universe kind of unveiled that moment to you about the word euphoria. And I just love that then you were able to write your book and it came to you. I mean, it's almost like this could be a movie, just hearing all of this is just phenomenal. But I think it also showcases the power, that women have when we're willing to just say, what if, And I love that. And I'm wondering if you would mind kind of sharing a little bit about your coaching business and how you give us a glimpse, if you will, of how you help draw that out of women or encourage them that it can be something that they can draw out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And, I just want to say that like this is such a common human condition experience. I mean, alcohol obviously exacerbates it, but every human is walking around this planet with limiting beliefs about what's possible for their life based on the experiences and the conditioning and the programming they received around them that makes them feel all kinds of things, from imposter syndrome to self-doubt to overwhelm to perfectionism, right? And so I think we come to adulthood with such, this practicality. Like my heart, I graduated right in the middle of the recession and I couldn't find a job. And like my heart was broken because it was like the first time my value was placed in the world and nobody wanted it, And that, along with that story I shared of like, I'm never going to write a book. Like I had so deeply seated into this, like, I wouldn't call it despair and hopelessness because it wasn't consciously like a depression, but it was like I had given up on my dreams. Dreams were for other people. We're going to be practical. Maybe I can move up in this company a little bit, but the wild and crazy things that I want, like that's not for me. You know what I mean? And I think it's really common for most adults to adopt that same kind of mindset and that kind of mentality. And so it's like, when did we decide that we lost the potential to do whatever it is that we want to do in this world? And we did at one point get hurt or get let down or have these experiences that kind of really take away that belief that anything is possible. And I think one of the most effective things we can do is work in our lifetime to redevelop those positive beliefs. Like when a baby is born, we usually get so excited and just say, that baby can do anything. That baby can be anything. This child, if they want to grow up to be the next president or this or that, like everything within them, they have that potential. When did we lose that? When did we stop being that baby who can go off and do anything and achieve their dreams? And I think that when working with a coach and going through either a group program or some kind of, element of personal development can help us really change some of those personal limiting beliefs that we might have, both about what's possible for us uniquely and even global opportunities. We have these global beliefs that like, you can't make money off your passions, for example, get a real job. Like all of this has been so drummed into our consciousnesses that yes, it does seem crazy to want to write a book and be successful like with that. There was a part of me that was very logical, but what if I continued listening to that voice and I never tried? What if, I didn't listen to the universe about this greater gift I was meant to share and I never wrote that book? I would still be in a cubicle working a 9-to-5, and that's nothing to disparage. It just wasn't for me. I wasn't happy doing that. Literally waiting for the weekend for something better to come than really finding that fulfillment in my life every single day. And so as a coach, not only do I help people like remove alcohol, we do that in some of my beginner programs, but we also have more intensive programs to then ask these deeper questions of what's next. Now that that's cleared out of the way, how do we find what it is the calling that we're meant to do on this planet? How do we share our creativity, our expressiveness? Because I think those are two things that are everyone's birthrights. We are all here to share. We are all here to be creative and expressive in whatever format that works for us and to give back in a certain way. Because both growth and contribution are some of our two top human needs that are the most missing in society. We kind of stagnate and plateau with our growth, and we don't continue our emotional, spiritual, mental, physical growth. And we also don't often have an avenue for giving back and making a difference. And that's why I think we have that common malaise of our society and that common just discontent or midlife crisis, is those two things are so missing. And if we can find an avenue to meet those two needs, it is literally, I can say with all honesty, Amy, I get high every day. Every day I feel a rush and just a pure, not like artificial, but literally pure fulfillment and a sense of deep meaning in what I'm doing. I still have very hard days. I still have challenging times. All that stuff is still life, but I can say I'm awakened to my purpose and I'm doing exactly what I've been called to do on this planet. And when the universe guides me to shift or up level or pivot or do something slightly different, it's going to be time to listen then too. But I can say without a doubt that that moment that I had that epiphany and the sunset, I've been actively listening to that voice. And I love that about, being guided by faith or something bigger than you, is to really recognize there is something guiding us. There is these synchronicities and these messages and these ways that we can really pay attention to the signs and the symbols around us to show that our life has meaning and we're meant to take these next steps, even if it means taking a leap of faith or a risk. But oftentimes that leap of faith or risk is a lot less stakes than we think it is. It's a matter of putting up a website or starting that document and starting to write your first chapter, or, putting together maybe a plan for a nonprofit or something. Like the things that we think are so scary are just a matter of deciding and taking some action. And every single time we take even the smallest baby step, I find that the universe rewards us by just showing us what the next baby step is and what the next one and then the next one. We don't have to have it all figured out. So in my coaching, not only do we help women discover their deep purpose, we help them give roadmaps to do that. I have so many clients who've gone on to launch their own podcasts, become coaches, start their own businesses, leave their 9-to-5s, move somewhere beautiful because it was always a dream, but somehow not a goal that could be attainable. And then they're just like, why not? Why can't I just live in France? You know what I mean? Really take this one precious life and do the thing they want to do. And even if it sounds selfish, I will argue that when we step into our dreams and our desires, we actually become so much more emotionally intelligent humans that inspire other people to do the same thing. Oftentimes our dreams are a matter of helping other people, so you can see the direct correlation there. But even let's say that a woman has a dream of, for example, quitting her job and traveling for a year. Maybe that sounds, kind of selfish. Who's that serving? Do you know how many other women around her are like, wow, Beth, I can't believe you did that. That's so amazing. I would love to do that. And how many people she might be secretly inspiring to take more action and to really take their dreams seriously. I mean, that's why Eat, Pray, Love was such a big phenomenon, is we saw that story play out for a woman to do that and to really take that on. A lot of women I know want to become coaches themselves too. So, just this year, we started our Empowered AF Coach certification program that certifies you in four different modalities, alcohol-free life coach included, as well as mindset coach, success coach, and NLP practitioner. Because I just see so many women who step into this deeper purpose, know that they're meant to give back, know that they're meant to share the things that were challenging for them and share solutions to make it so much easier for other people, to shave off the time and the suffering and the effort it takes to arrive where they arrived with some solid help like that. And so, this is like my life's passion and my life's work. I stand on this mountain so strongly because I really do believe in purpose. And I was just interviewing a 102-year-old doctor who was literally sharing the secrets to how she's lived so long. And she calls it the juice. And for her, the juice means waking up with purpose every day. And I'm just like, this is my woman. This is what I believe wholeheartedly. And I think that when we find this, gosh, it's not only alcohol an afterthought, it's like a silly imitation of what was once, trying to be the real thing.
That's so beautifully said. And I read a lot of Father Richard Rohr, and he's got this whole idea of like before, your first half of life, basically, and your second half of life kind of thing. And I think that it's amazing how something like alcohol can even reveal kind of this before and after type mentality. And I love that because then, once you're on the other side of those limiting beliefs, right? It sort of feels like, I don't know, in a sense, like easier to make decisions too, because you kind of feel it, Like, is this event going to serve me well? Is, having a conversation with this person, who's extremely like dualistic in their thinking, and is that going to serve me well? And just being able to ask those questions and kind of feel that inner guidance and begin to practice living in the spirit of that, and how beautifully that can show itself and reveal itself, to bring us into the better sort of version of ourselves. And as you were talking, I was having a memory of, I was still in my cups in my drinking days, and I was wandering around a grocery store, and I just remember looking at people and thinking, I feel so stuck, and you guys are all happier than I am right now. And I was jealous. I mean, I'm making this up in my head, right? As I'm looking at people. But it was such a stark realization that like, my life kind of sucks right now, and I'm not happy with it, but I just felt like I was like in cement blocks. I just felt like I could not move. And I'm kind of wondering too, do you have like early sobriety groups where you have people come in who are experiencing that just real crisis of spirit where it's like, I don't really even know if I can do this? And if so, do you have like some tools that you kind of help them with a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely recommend my book, Euphoric: Ditch Alcohol, Gain a Happier, More Confident You. And we also have my signature program, Become Euphoric, that helps people at this early stage. And I think sometimes even reframing, like there's so much to do that I'd love to get into, but even reframing what it means to take a pause from alcohol can be really helpful. Because if we are now taking on this, woe is me, I can never drink again, I messed up, I'm deprived now of this glorious thing that everybody else gets to enjoy, those blocks get really heavy. You know what I mean? And I really think that in today's era, like we can really start questioning what the role of alcohol in our society looks like, and really start questioning the deeper motives of, why is this alcohol industry profiting so much, and really literally putting, like there's shows with teenagers in them that they're drinking whiskey. You know what I mean? Like we have to say that there's an over glamorization of alcohol in our society, and that it really behooves all of us to be a little bit more intuitive and aware about how that plays a relationship into our lives, and have that consciousness around it to reevaluate it. So first of all, when women come into my world, there's nothing wrong with them. They literally have done exactly what society told them to do. Did they not? Right? Alcohol is an addictive substance, so obviously the problem's going to exacerbate over time. It's addictive to the human brain and the human body. So like there's no mystery of like where they are, why they're there. They listen to exactly what society was telling them to do. Drink in college? Okay. Drink every time you meet up with these mom groups? Okay, right? Like this is like the prescribed thing. One doctor in 1991 literally told the world that red wine is good for your heart. And then all these flawed studies come out after that trying to prove that point. That's been completely debunked now. But this idea that we should all drink one glass of red wine with our dinners literally came from one person in the 90s that literally brought the alcohol not only from the social elements into like, well, this is a normal habit to have at home. It's refined, it's sophisticated, there's nothing wrong with it, right? That's literally messed up an entire 30 years of people drinking that have our drinking consumption levels have gone up so much in the last 30 years. I don't know if it's just a result of that, obviously, but it's insane to see sociologically how these factors kind of play into consumption habits. For example, in the 80s, more Americans drank soda with dinner, which isn't obviously the best either, but they drink more soda with dinner than they did wine. Like it wasn't as just prolific as it is today. So if we can actually see that alcohol is this like heavy blanket that's put on all of society, unless you grow up in Saudi Arabia or something, you're going to deal with this. And really recognize that it's actually the most intuitive people who question their relationship with alcohol. It's the most bravest people. It's the wisest people. It's the most conscious people. And even when we have those moments where there's a stark realization, for example, like your story or, anyone who's gone through that kind of a moment, why can't we see that as a gift from the universe that's like really tapping our shoulder? I mean, I was getting silently tapped for years every Monday morning. You got the bigger tap, and thank God for it, right? Thank God for that wake-up call from the universe to say, leave behind this thing that's not serving you anymore and step into your greater brilliance instead. So I, first of all, really applaud the women that comes into my community. It's a signal of her incredible intuition. And that's what my book celebrates as well. It's also meant for anyone who's exploring. So they're going to get a really good guide on what taking a break from alcohol will do for their body, their mind, their soul, and then get an 8-week plan to follow after that. And in my program, when we go through it, what's really key for me is helping people change their mindset or their deeper beliefs about alcohol, because we believe, even if not consciously, subconsciously, that alcohol meets our needs. And if we continue to believe that, even if we know it's bad for us or we shouldn't drink it or I should be sober, it's going to feel like deprivation. And so it's really critical to change the underlying subconscious belief about your needs being met with alcohol to then get to a point of literally not wanting it anymore and not desiring it. And that's true freedom. It's not I can't drink, it's I don't want to drink, And so with that, we look at some of the needs people are using alcohol for. For example, one of the biggest ones is that it helps me relax, it helps me numb, it helps me shut down my overacting brain. So all those things are how it helps you slow down, helps you kind of decompress, and really look at some of the science and even personal experiences of how that's not true. Alcohol actually doesn't relax the human body. It pumps out all these stress hormones into your body. A lot of people use alcohol to become more alive or to become more excited or fun or sociable. And we also look into that limiting belief. For example, every time I used alcohol to become confident or more gregarious while I was, in my 20s, I wasn't actually building my confidence. There was no progress in how I felt in my skin. I always needed the glass. And it was almost as if I was telling my subconscious, Karolina, you're not good enough. You have nothing interesting to say. Nobody actually wants to talk to you, but here, have this glass, and then you'll be better at all those things. So can you imagine how much that was actually deteriorating my confidence and my self-esteem over time, even if those things weren't consciously said? That was the message I was giving to myself. So even learning how to build those things within and realize that alcohol was never adding to that. And if we think alcohol is fun, it's often because we're lacking stimulation in our lives. We actually don't even know what fun means to us. I like to think of imagine if we had rats in a cage and we put little brain nodes that did electrical impulses to their brain. And I was able to just push a button and it would just affect the pleasure center in the rat. Obviously, the rat's going to think it's having fun. But from a more dystopian objective view, it's very sad. The rat is not doing a maze. It's not chasing cheese. It's not learning anything new. It's literally sitting there like a zombie, right? With this passive fireworks going off in the brain. And I would argue the same thing happens with alcohol. we don't even know what's fun for us anymore because we're so ingrained into thinking it's just drinking. Like, what brings us organic joy? What really lights us up? And I think that there's a really important time in early sobriety, once we get kind of through a little bit of the habit change and just kind of getting settled down, to discover those things. What is fun for me? It's going to be super exploratory and experimental to just, I mean, I remember going to paddleboard yoga classes and Zumba classes and writers' workshops, not only to fill the time, but also to be like, what do I like? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I will say this too, that for anyone who feels like those blocks are super heavy, I personally am not a fan of the forever. I love to have a sustainable alcohol-free lifestyle for the rest of my time here on this planet. But I wasn't wise enough to decide that at the very beginning, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So if we can also approach it with a little bit less pressure and like, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you commit to a certain time frame, maybe without alcohol? It gives a person a chance to kind of try it without some of that baggage of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doomed into this life forever. And they might actually be like surprisingly pleased at what they find, you know what I mean? And then the experience itself convinces them to go longer. And so, like, I think that the experimental nature, especially as we're trying to reevaluate the whole world's relationship with alcohol, not just select individuals, it actually makes it a lot easier to be a little bit more experimental and playful. And obviously, sometimes people do take that break and they go back to drinking, but they now know something a little bit deeper. They know a different way, and they knew that they were happier. And it might take a few more years to finally listen to their intuition on what is the best for them. But I would argue that those years were definitely spent moving progress in the right direction, if that makes sense. You know, like every single time, even if someone slips again or has a drink, if they can learn that that didn't meet their needs, that it was disappointing, that it didn't serve anything that they thought they'd get out of it, they've now gotten closer to lopping off that part of their brain that so attached itself to alcohol. And we can take a little of that pressure off. Obviously, being alcohol-free and having a deeper why and maintaining it is also so beautiful to arrive at. But, you know, for me at the very beginning, I wasn't ready for that. It's just super simple to say. Yeah. So those are some of the 3 components I say are super important when we start in those initial stages, because I think it takes some of that pressure off and really allows it to be a little bit more introspective of like, okay, I find myself here. This is hard and heavy. How can I bring a little lightness here? How can I see the benefit? And a little practice we do in my community is just to share 3 things we're grateful for every day. Every day, something small. It could be like, I didn't wake up with a headache, or I was able to pick my daughter up from school at 10 p.m. after her play got out. Little things that would have just been impossible with alcohol in the story. And we can really build these little gratitudes and these wins to see just how much more authentic we can be in this lifestyle.
I love that so much. And one thing that truly fascinates me is that there are so many different ways to quit drinking and get sober and try something else, try another path. You know, and I got sober in a, you know, kind of a more maybe common, conventional way in terms of 12-step fellowship. And I love hearing the stories of people who didn't, because there's such power in all these different like methods. I mean, it's just incredible to me. Some people arrive here with, you know, legal problems and this and that. Some people just said, you know what, I was sick and tired of being hungover every single day. I couldn't function and I quit, you know, and it just blows my mind, because I mean, it's kind of like, you know, spirituality. A lot of times, many of us have very similar, like, bottom lines that we're heading towards, like, you know, love your neighbor, love yourself, whatever, and circuitous and different paths to get to sort of similar destinations, even though the journey or the path looks very separate and very different. And I'm wondering, it doesn't sound to me like you had a 12-step background of any kind, but did you have a support network, or did you kind of just start listening to your intuition and then with your writing and with, you know, following the path as it began to unfold in front of you? How did all of that work for you as you got and stayed sober and then began to have community around you eventually?
Yeah. And I just love what you said because, 3 million deaths a year are attributed to alcohol and many more that are correlated through higher heart disease and cancer that they're not even putting the pieces together that it's truly from alcohol. The alcohol industry is making $253 billion off of our pain, our numbness, and our stagnation in life. Like, all roads are truly leading into a better future where we're becoming more conscious, having more options, and getting the support that people need. So I definitely applaud that same mission and that same goal. And it does get to be a beautiful listening to your intuition about what's going to be right for you and keep on trying until you find what's right for you. You know what I mean? I will say for me, that first break I did without the first 30 days I didn't plug into anything. And while I was able to have, I'm pretty what's it called? Once I set my mind to something, I think I told a few people that level of accountability was I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to go back on this. And there's definitely plenty of times when I kind of tried that, but was a little bit more wishy-washy with it. So, the 30 days was a no-brainer in the sense that we're just going to commit. But I didn't have any of that support. And I would say that that's why it was so easy to go back to drinking in February. And then when I had that epiphany of this isn't fun, this isn't what I even expected it to be, I really want to go back, that's when I really dug in. I dug into different books, different communities, and I really took it seriously that I have all of these different positive beliefs around alcohol, that I think it helps me relax, or I think it helps me be more confident, or I think it helps me deal with pain or be more social, or I think it's a necessary part of celebration. Every little thing I believed about alcohol and the positive, I ruthlessly took apart all of those beliefs and changed them around so that through time and experience, I literally find no benefit, no pleasure, no comfort with alcohol. It's meaningless to me. And this is obviously a process. This didn't happen overnight, but that's why I was journaling so much at that time. And that's why I think it's so important to kind of detach some of that meaning. If I think about it, alcohol is nothing more than a fermented beverage in a glass that's toxic. It's society that's added all the meaning to it.
Yes.
They have the Carrie Bradshaw phenomenon and the James Bond, how much sophistication and glamour and independence and rebelliousness and all these concepts that we want to embody have been attached to alcohol in our society. And that has been very curated for us ever since we were young. I have this picture of me. I'm 6 years old, I believe. I'm in kindergarten. And I'm doing some kind of collage where you cut out pictures from a magazine and you paste it onto, a collage board. And there I am cutting. And right next to me is this huge advertisement for vodka. You think my little subconscious brain didn't pick up on that at that time, that this is what a beautiful, sophisticated, glamorous woman looks like and this is what she drinks? Obviously, consciously, no, but subconsciously, we've been watching alcohol in our society for the moment we can remember. We've seen people drink around us, our parents, our friends, or whatever it was. And then we have our own experiences as we grow up that add on to it, right? So there's a lot of programming that we need to change. And so that was really imperative for me. And I think that because I did that so ruthlessly, I never got cravings again. I never wanted to drink again. I really so firmly found this position. And obviously I've made my deeper why and my teachings about it. So now it's really symbolic for me to not ever go back. But I think that was really critical to really recognize that we are groomed to want to drink and that it means something good about us in so many different ways. And it might be very personal how each person arrives at those different conclusions, but it's really, really healing, beautiful work to kind of unpack that and see where we've attached that. I have clients, for example, who went to France for the first time when they were in their 20s. And they just kind of found themselves. But at the same time, they found wine. And it's been so hard to detach that sense of independence and international romance and all these beautiful things away from alcohol. It's been so ingrained into that. I know, too, that when we're dealing with trauma or any kind of limiting beliefs of just not feeling like we are good enough or that we have anything good to offer or anything like that, how fast does alcohol come in to be just that panacea, anesthetic to numb all those limiting beliefs too. So in that time, even in that moment, we have a positive belief about alcohol. This helps me not have to think or feel anything. You know what I mean? And that belief actually is true. It is an anesthetic, but ultimately that belief is stemming from wanting to feel better and knowing that alcohol in the long run isn't doing that. It's really not meeting that need, and to be really critical about that and point out even all the examples that it's not true, we can slowly start to change the belief. There's this saying in the coaching world that a belief is like a table with 3 legs. And if the legs are the evidence, if you can start to take away the evidence, the table falls flat and the belief can be changed. And then we can create new beliefs that are much more empowering. And there's just so much studies to show that like there is no objective reality. Everything is just based on our perception. Even the colors we see, my dog would see a completely different colors than I see, and a pigeon would see completely, even vastly more colors than I could see. There's no objective reality that we can actually pinpoint. So it's like our beliefs really get to be something we choose. And we might as well choose the ones that actually serve us and empower us. And so today, I don't think of not drinking as something that's embarrassing or a weakness or a defect or I just couldn't handle it. I look to people like Tony Robbins or Deepak Chopra or Brene Brown or Gabby Bernstein, and I see it as a superpower to be a non-drinker.
You word that so well, and you really showcase the power of the mind, that we can change these beliefs. And, if we have the willingness to do so too. And I think sometimes, especially as we get older, it's like, oh, but this is all I've known. And I love the way you referenced being a child. It's like, yeah, I mean, these messages have been imparted into us since we were very small. And I have some college age kids right now. And just kind of as we begin to wrap up, I love that you mentioned at the beginning that, you wanted to write a book ever since you were a child. And, that's one thing that they always say when you're starting these processes of like, what do you think you might want to do, quote, when you grow up, unquote, right? Or in narrowing down these colleges or universities or whatever your next step is, right? What do you think, you might want to do? And sometimes it's an overwhelming question for these kids who are about to embark on this big journey of college. And so, they say, think back to what did you love to do as a kid? Was it Legos? Did you love dressing up? What was it? And you're supposed to pull those things out from the recesses of your brain. And I was the same way. It was like I wanted to write ever since I was very small. I just loved writing books, and I'd staple together construction paper and it was just something that was always in me. And I love that it can come full circle, that when you remove the blockages, the things that are getting in our way and actually detracting from who we are meant to be, there's space and there's freedom to come back to those things that we were meant to do, and just how lovely that is. And I love that you used a term, something like organic fun. Well, yeah, what did I love to do? What brought me joy when I was young? And and it is those things that we often find ourselves like magnetized to, right? That like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember whatever, playing with Play-Doh, and maybe now I'm going to take, a ceramics class or whatever, whatever it is that, we get to that point when the alcohol is removed and all these societal messages that are bombarding us, when we get those out of the way, what's possible? It's fantastic. And so as we wrap up, I was wondering if you could talk about the process of writing the book and then going, hey, I'm going to just go for it. I'm going to do the traditional route. I'm going to get an agent and decide that this is what I want to do, because I know there's a lot of people, they love indie publishing, have agency over all that. And then there are other people who are like, you know what? If I don't ask, the answer is no. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it a whirl to go traditional publishing. Can you talk about what your experience was like with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously both routes are super valid and have so many different pros and cons based on our unique, desires and goals out of it. So there's not one right way. But once I got like that writer's block, and then I started writing, I wrote such at a low scale, like standard. I mean, and by that I mean like I would literally wake up and not even go use the bathroom or brush my teeth and grab a journal like this and write for 15 minutes in the morning. And that's how I first wrote my book. Trust me, it's a different version today than that scribbly writing, but that's how I just proved to myself that I could trust that the words could come out of my page. And once I got to around 60,000 words, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the size of a book. It's not a good book, but it's a book, right? And so I kind of put that away and I was like, okay, what are the next steps? And so I started to do the research. And, anyone who wants to write a book, I just applaud you, because it's kind of like becoming an astronaut in our society. It's not like you can just ask your neighbor or your friend. Like, nobody actually knows because it's pretty rare. 82% of Americans want to write a book, and the percentage of people who actually do is very small compared to that. So, I did some Googling, obviously, and found that I did want to do the traditional publishing route because I just wanted to share this message as wide as possible, and that I needed to get an agent, and that the next step was to write a book proposal. And a book proposal is kind of like a business plan for your book. It's not really your book. It's actually like an argument of why your book is needed, who's going to read it, how you're going to market it, all these things. And I found myself lock up into so much resistance at that moment, because all that writing I was doing, in the morning on my little journals, it was private and the dream was so real. And the moment I had to start writing a book proposal, it was like, this is when I can get rejected. This is when the door closes. This is when people can say no. And so I was kind of like, not really working on it for a while. And then I joined a women's group program that we all had to commit to a goal to achieve by the end of like 12 weeks together. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is where I say out loud publicly, I'm going to work on my book proposal. So I did it in that time. I found out how to write a book proposal. I wrote a copy of that and I started sending it out to agents. And you wouldn't believe it. Like, yes, it's not the easiest thing to get a traditional book deal. Oftentimes it's based on who you know, or just knowing people in publishing and stuff like that, or the size of your platform or things like that. I started out pretty small though at that point. I'd grown my business, like I did them in tandem, but it was still nothing compared to like Oprah status or anything like that, right? Nothing to call mom about. And I sent my book out to an agent in New York. And this is just the craziest story. They call it the slop pile. That's where they get all of their book proposals and manuscripts that like are unsolicited. And most of the time that doesn't go anywhere past the slot pile. And there was a woman who was the assistant to my agent who was 27, living in New York, drinking with her friends socially and feeling tired of it. And she read my book proposal and it just sparked in her something that this book is needed. It gives kind of an alternate route. It talks to that gray area drinking, that social drinking, that we can be just experimental inquisitiveness. And she's like, this is needed in the world. So she brought it up to her agent. Her agent liked it as well, but did tell me that it needs more polishing. So they recommended I work with a book consultant. And they, recommended this lady. And I reach out to this lady. I'm so new in my journey at this point, and I find out that she's $7,500. And at that point, that is beyond more than anything I've ever spent on my dream. And there was this moment where I was like, should I just not do this? Should I just like try a different way, And I was like, holy hell, I think the universe is pointing you towards the direction of your dreams. I think we can go into our emergency savings, have some conversations with my husband, maybe even take out a loan if we have to. But clearly the universe is giving you a path forward. So I took it up. I polished my book proposal with her. I got a lot of brilliant help. And then when I was done with that, my agent signed me, and being the brilliant lady that she is, she got me a 6-figure book deal from HarperCollins, which is like, I don't know, something like 12 times what I paid for the book consultant, you know what I mean, as a return on investment. And it's just been such a synchronicitous experience of like moving forward. It's not been challenging. Like writing and marketing and selling a book is obviously comes with its challenges and stuff. But for so long too, I had this password that said book deal is coming. That was my password for so many different things to just ingrain in my subconscious that this is my life path. This is what I was meant to do. That vision I got watching the sunset wasn't in vain. Like, this is what it told me to do, and I did it. And I did the scary steps, and I didn't know all the steps at first. I just took every little baby step as it revealed itself to me. And the book really did make my career. It grew my business and my reach a lot more. And we have lots of goals still to meet. We have a huge vision still, but it's definitely one of those, like, I literally believe in miracles now, when I didn't before. Like, that is a miracle, the way it happened and how it did. And I don't really think it's about me. I think it's about who it was supposed to help, why it all happened the way it did.
You bring such a message of hope. And so I just am dumbfounded hearing all this. And I do wonder, I got to ask you now, I know we're wrapping up, but I'm like, what's next for you? Because you literally have me on the edge of my seat. You just, to the person listening to this, who's at home drinking, thinking that every day has to be this way, I just hope you know through listening to this that is so not true. And so what is next for you, Karolina?
Well, thank you so much for asking. I definitely have book number 2 that we're just getting started on that I really want to share a little bit more lines along the lines of what I've been sharing right now in this, of like how we all have this deeper purpose. And I really want to interweave my family story. Both of my grandparents survived a horrendous war of being in Poland and occupation, being bombed, being shot. My uncles were murdered. Just this incredible, incredible story that I have. And to really show that, like, doesn't matter where we come from or who we are all born out of survivors who survived famines and poverty and wars and diseases that we can't even think of in our modern era, and that literally their dreams were probably more likely not possible for them. And that we are the torchbearers of our generations that now have so much possibility at our fingertips. Not only our awakenings away from alcohol, but also this modern era that gives us so much more opportunity to write books and share with our messages with people and just do the things we want to do. So that's book number 2. And I also really want to grow our certification program. I can't alone help everyone in this world obviously change their relationship with alcohol. You alone either can't. I think we need more of us out there, more of us speaking up about this and just shifting that whole culture, that drinking culture we have in our society, to give just more empowerment to people to question. So we need more coaches out there. I definitely want to grow that certification. So anyone listening would be interested in becoming a coach and using their own transformation to help other people's lives. It's very, very fulfilling and can give you a lot of autonomy as well, more time freedom or all things like that. So definitely want to grow that. And I'm a big traveler at heart. So every year I have just destinations I want to see. I'd love to keep traveling and just really see this beautiful planet as much as I can while I'm here on this planet.
Incredible. You are doing amazing work. Thank you so much, Karolina, for sharing that. I love what you just said too. I just have to comment on it that we are torchbearers of survivors. Yes. And what can we now do in response to that, to being in that position and to having what we have? And, I just feel like I'm going to be chewing on this for days. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I cannot wait to watch the new sunset of the next thing with you. It just gives me such joy to hear about it. And you're just such an inspiration. So thank you for being on here today.
Amy, it was such a pleasure. You are amazing. Your work is amazing. And I'm just so honored.
Oh, a blessing. All right. Well, in the spirit of that, you guys, be kind, rewind. Thank you for the honor of your time. Take what you like and leave the rest behind.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. You can keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.